here, and today we're getting into my first Cincinnati Bengals game review of the 2017 season. First things first, I want to give a shout out to Sam and Nick for being the top Bengals review fans on my channel. And now that I have thanked you guys can click off the video because I know you guys could not care less about football. So let's get right in to the the Ravens game, and this game is for Bengals fans is very disturbing, and for a few reasons. I'm gonna try and break this down and just hit you guys with the facts, but there is going to be probably a bit of anger here, and to the Ravens fans watching the video today, I would like to say thank you guys for watching. Your team kicked my team's ass today, or yesterday. This is being uploaded on Monday. And maybe North comment sections. Just kidding, Steelers fans. You're cool too. In my preseason predictions, I said this game was a reluctant win for the Bengals, and after watching this game, I am really not too surprised. But at the same time, some of the reasons I thought we would win were actually the reasons we ended up losing. I thought we would be able to take advantage of Baltimore's poor offense, and that despite their good defense, we would just be able to outscore them. Their good defense dominated us in pretty much every way. Baltimore has a great defense this year. It will most likely, if not definitely, be top 5 in the league again, as it was last year. And our offense could not outscore them, and Baltimore's poor offense, it was not great, but it was able to keep them in games, and they did not turn the ball over. But before we really get into this, this team is very young, Bengals fans have to understand, and it could get even younger if we address a certain problem. If I don't think it is a problem quite yet. I'm talking about the quarterback, but I want to see Dalton more this season, but he could be a problem and could be replaced. But this team is very young. There were 3 players in the game who were 30, and no one in the team besides special teamers, the long snapper, the punter, who played, were over 30. The only 30-year-olds on the team were LaFell, Vinny Ray, and Michael Johnson, all leaders on this team, but they aren't as big of leaders as guys we missed today. Domata Peko, Andrew Whitworth, Ray Maualuga, and even players who aren't here today, like Pac-Man Jones and Vontaze Burfict. Those leaders, we need the leadership to stay in these games, and the veterans like Dalton and Atkins and Dunlap and J.J. Green should be the leaders, but they didn't lead today, and that a giant goose egg is not acceptable. Even if our leaders, we're missing some leaders, and we're a young team, this team will get better. Hopefully, I can't say for sure that they'll get better, but this team is definitely a young team, but 0 points is not acceptable. The first really disturbing thing is that the Bengals had the ball within the Ravens' 15-yard line 3 times, and in Ravens territory 6 times. There are big red zone problems still for this team, and Ken Zampese is a good point by the announcers were made that I feel like Baltimore knew what was happening before the Bengals knew it was happening, how obvious their offensive play calling was. Dalton's first read was the first one he threw to pretty much every time, even though receivers did get open. And they need to do more in the red zone than just fade routes or runs with Jeremy Hill up the middle. That's not going to work. Even though Jeremy Hill did work today, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to use him. Andy Dalton was bad. He was very bad today. He threw 4 picks, and I say 3 of them are 100% his fault. The Ravens defense, they might be the best in the NFL this year. They might. So credit them. They had a bunch of great plays. And The offensive line for Cincinnati, they completely collapsed a couple of times, but I feel like for a lot of the game, they did hold up. They held up enough that Dalton could have made enough plays to get the job done. Um, Dalton, his first pick was very disturbing. The clip might be up here. When Andy Dalton threw a pass that was tipped by a linebacker and picked off by Brandon Carr. And the disturbing thing is if you look, A.J. Green is wide open on the play, your best wide receiver, and you're trying to hit Brennan LaFell covered, and you know a linebacker's there. That's bad play. That's bad decision making. The second pick was also disturbing because Brandon LaFell was completely blanketed in the end zone, and Dalton throws to them even though he has Tyler Eifert under the middle. And Eifert isn't completely open, but he probably makes the catch, gets some yards, and at the least you don't throw a pick in the end zone. The Raven again. I want to keep crediting the Ravens because their DBs and linebackers were great, and they stopped Dalton immediately. But Dalton's decision making has to get better, and the O-line has to at least be serviceable. I think Dalton was sacked 5 times. Cedric Ogbuehi was credited with 2 of those on his own. And Cedric Ogbuehi also did not touch Terrell Suggs on the play. He batted the ball in the air, and Dalton was picked for his 3rd pick. Dalton's 4th pick was just a terrible play, and that was all on Dalton's decision making. But again, the offensive line held up enough today, and the running backs were able to kind of get going. But Dalton's picks were really what killed the team, and I'm curious, honestly, what A.J. McCarron can do. I'm a big Andy Dalton fan, big Andy Dalton supporter, but I'm still curious, especially in a night game against Houston, what A.J. McCarron can do. Hopefully Andy comes back and destroys Houston, but I'm interested in what A.J. McCarron has to offer. It also bothers me that I feel like this team kind of gave up today, and that's because their plays were Andy and also Marvin and Zampese's play calling were they were just too conservative. There were 4th downs where I think like a Bill Belichick or a Mike Tomlin would have gone for it, and instead the Bengals bring out the punting unit. Or on a critical 4th down and late in the game, Dalton just throws the ball away. The game might be out of hand at this point, but you don't want to send that message to your team. You were one of the biggest veterans on the team and the biggest leader, and you show them to throw the ball away late in the game where you're in the red zone having a chance to take some points at least on that drive, and Dalton just didn't show that. Maybe he was trying to not throw another pick and everyone was blanketed, and the offensive line did collapse on that play, but I still don't think it's a good look. The positives, I think the defense played very well. They gave up 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals by having to play a lot of the game. They played, I think, maybe 10 minutes longer than the Bengals did. And Baltimore often had great field position. They also only gave up a field goal in the second half, and that was off of a Dalton turnover, I believe. Baltimore only outgained Cincinnati by 40 yards, and the Bengals held the Ravens to 111 passing yards. Granted, they didn't really have to pass because they were in the lead the whole time. They also picked off Flacco once. Nick Vigil picks off Joe Flacco. They ran very well. The Ravens did, but teams usually run well on the Bengals, and I am concerned about our run defense. Our passing defense might be alright, but the run defense is concerning. Terrence West had 80 yards, and Buck Allen had 71. And the Ravens, their O-line is very good. No disrespect to West, but he is probably one of the worst running backs the Bengals are going to see this year. So I want to see if they can do anything about the run game, if they can figure anything out. And also, Darqueze Dennard did not play great. He took a bad angle on a Jeremy Maclin touchdown, and basically he ran into George Iloka, and Jeremy Maclin runs into the end zone for a touchdown. So I don't think Adam Jones makes that mistake and probably saves a touchdown there. So when Adam Jones comes back, that might be fixed, as well as having more leadership. The offense, AJ Green still looked like AJ Green. Dalton missed him a couple times, but he had a 75-yard receiving performance. He did pretty well. The running backs looked all right from what they did, but the Bengals, they chose not to run it because whenever Dalton passed, he made a bad decision. And it was a lot of the time either a drop or a pick. Also, Cody Core completely burnt a receiver, and Dalton just throws the ball out of bounds. It was disturbing. That was a touchdown there for sure, and that ended up being a Bengals punt, I believe, or another turnover. I'm not sure which, but that was a touchdown that the Bengals lost out on. So I've been, again, if it's not clear, Andy Dalton definitely lost this game for us with bad turnovers and bad decision making. I'm interested in what A.J. McCarron can do. I'm not ready to bench Dalton yet, but I'm interested in what McCarron can do, especially in a primetime setting. And the offensive line, it was not good. Cedric Ogbuehi is very bad, but I think we need to at least get mediocre play out of them and better play from Dalton, and this team can turn around. This week, the Bengals play the Texans, who are a very similar team to them on Thursday this week. The Texans lost 29-7 to the Jags on Sunday, and the Jags with Blake Bortles. They had similar issues. The teams they played don't necessarily have a very good offense, and the offense put up 20-plus points on them. The teams they played against had good defenses and didn't let the Texans and Bengals score. Both teams have a superstar wide receiver in A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins, and both have struggling O-lines. I think the key things in this game are the quarterbacks and defensive lines who can get more pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. I feel like Cincinnati probably has an advantage here just because we don't know anything about Deshaun Watson yet, who's probably going to start for Houston on Thursday. But if Dalton has another very poor decision-making game, Deshaun Watson probably wins this matchup just because the Bengals don't have any tape on him. And they've had problems in the past years with quarterbacks they don't know much about. I also think that Houston's going to... I think the decider of this game, and why I think Houston's honestly going to win, is the Houston's defensive line is just so good. The front seven, at least, is so good. J.J. Watt, Davian Clowney, Whitney Merciless, Brian Cushing. It's just such a good defensive line, and I don't think Dalton or the defensive line can quite handle it. So I think the Bengals might be able to figure out some offense sometime in the year with a team that's growing up, that's getting older, but I don't think it'll happen Thursday. I will take the Texans. I'll take their D-line. I think it is too good. So that's really it. So let's go over what we've been through. The Andy Dalton, awful performance, 4 picks. The offensive line, not good. We didn't expect them to be good. They were serviceable in the run block, but they were not good. Defense played pretty well. One big blown coverage by Darqueze Dennard. And I think we will probably lose to the Texans next week for the same reason we lost to the Ravens this week. So, thank you guys for watching. This has been our media, and I will actually not see you guys next week because I will be in North Carolina. But I might see you guys on Monday. That's when I get back, and I will try and do a Texans game review then, if I can remember. So, hopefully on Monday. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.